In the sun-baked suburbs of Las Vegas, life seemed as ordinary as it gets. Manicured lawns, neighbors exchanging friendly waves, and children's laughter echoing down the quiet streets. The air was thick with the scent of freshly cut grass and the hum of distant lawnmowers, a picture of suburban tranquility. On the surface, this was a neighborhood where everyone knew each other's names, where block parties and backyard barbecues were the norm, and where secrets, if they existed, were buried deep beneath the surface. But behind one door, hidden from the cheerful chaos of daily life, a chilling secret was about to shatter the peace. The kind of secret that could turn a home into a crime scene, and a family into a headline. Inside, a wife was living a double life, her outward calm masking a deadly intent. She moved through her kitchen with practiced ease, but her mind raced with plans that would soon become unthinkable reality. Every gesture, every glance was calculated as she prepared to commit an act that would forever change the course of her family story. Evidence of her intent wouldn't be found in fingerprints or stray hairs. Instead, it was hidden in plain sight, a digital receipt, a ghost in the machine, quietly recording every move she made online. In a world where every click leaves a trace, her actions were being logged, timestamped, and stored, waiting to be uncovered. The story began with a quiet, tragic discovery. A man found dead in his own home, the cause of death unclear and the circumstances suspicious. The sirens broke the silence of the street, drawing neighbors from their homes, their faces etched with shock and confusion. To outsiders, it seemed like a sudden, inexplicable tragedy, a life cut short, a family left in mourning. Whispers spread quickly, but no one could have guessed the darkness lurking just beneath the surface. But for the investigators called to the scene, something didn't add up. The details were too neat, the story too simple. They sensed something darker, a hidden motive, a carefully constructed lie. The truth began to emerge. The victim had ingested a lethal cocktail, a mix of poisons measured and mixed with chilling precision. This was no accident, but a deliberate act, planned, prepared, and executed with cold intent. The betrayal was intimate, a violation of the deepest trust two people can share. In the sanctuary of marriage, where love is supposed to be unconditional, one partner had exploited that trust for deadly gain. The investigation's turning point came not from physical evidence, but from the digital world, a trail of online purchases, each one a clue pointing to premeditation. The internet, so often a tool for convenience, had become a silent witness to murder. Weeks before her husband's death, the wife had spent hundreds of dollars on toxic substances, each transaction carefully logged and tracked. The purchases were spaced out, designed to avoid suspicion. The digital record was impossible to erase. It was premeditation in plain sight, a murder plot executed with the cold efficiency of online shopping. The very tools meant to make life easier had been twisted into instruments of death. E-commerce, home delivery, and digital convenience. These everyday comforts had become the perfect cover for a calculated crime. The ordinary had become extraordinary, and the familiar deadly. In the end, it was the digital ghost, the silent, unblinking record of every online action that began to tell the true story. In a world where secrets are just a click away from exposure, the quietest streets can hide the deadliest secrets. They'd been married 10 years, a milestone, once marked by happiness and shared dreams. In the beginning, their love felt unbreakable, a bond celebrated by family and friends. Their wedding day was filled with laughter, promises, and the hope of a future built together. They believed they could weather any storm, that their partnership would only grow stronger with time. But over time, the laughter faded, replaced by tense silences and averted eyes. The warmth that once filled their home slowly ebbed away, leaving behind a chill that neither wanted to acknowledge. Conversations became brief and practical, stripped of affection or humor. Each day, the distance between them grew, invisible but undeniable. Friends noticed the change, sharp words, withdrawn looks, a partnership turning into a cage. Social gatherings became uncomfortable, with friends exchanging worried glances as the couple's tension simmered just beneath the surface. What was once a model relationship now seemed fragile, on the verge of breaking. The reasons were complex, a slow erosion, not a single event. Small disappointments accumulated, unspoken grievances festered, and the weight of unmet expectations pressed down on both of them. It wasn't one argument or betrayal, but 1,000 tiny cuts that left their marriage bleeding and weak. Neighbors heard arguments piercing the desert night, the soundtrack of a marriage in decline. The once quiet home now echoed with raised voices and slammed doors, drawing the attention of those living nearby. Whispers spread through the neighborhood as people wondered what had gone wrong behind closed doors. Disputes grew bitter, frequent, signaling a crumbling foundation. Every disagreement seemed to reopen old wounds, and apologies became rare. The couple found themselves locked in a cycle of blame and defensiveness, unable to remember what had once brought them together. Love had died, but obligation and resentment remained, binding them together. Nights were spent in silence, backs turned, each lost in their own thoughts. The sense of partnership was gone, replaced by a heavy sense of duty and a growing bitterness that colored every interaction. Their home became a battleground, not a sanctuary. The rooms that once held laughter and intimacy now bore witness to arguments and cold stares. Even the smallest disagreements could spark a fight, leaving the house in disarray and the air thick with tension. As the fights intensified and silences deepened, one partner began searching for a final escape. The idea of freedom became an obsession, a way to end the pain and reclaim a sense of self. Late at night, alone with their thoughts, they wondered if there was any way out of the toxic cycle. The emotional connection was gone, replaced by animosity. Every interaction felt like a battle, with neither willing to back down. The love that once united them had curdled into something dark and destructive. The toxic stalemate left only one way out in her mind. Desperation took hold, clouding her judgment and fueling dangerous thoughts. She convinced herself that drastic action was the only solution, that there was no hope for reconciliation or peace. A deadly plan was taking shape. In the shadows of their broken home, she began to plot her escape, not through forgiveness or separation, but through a final, irreversible act that would change everything forever. In the days before the tragedy, the house stood quietly at the edge of the neighborhood, its windows glowing softly in the early morning and fading into shadow by night. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, a feeling that something was about to change, though no one could say exactly what. A strange quiet settled over the house, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The usual sounds of life, laughter, footsteps, even arguments, seemed to have vanished, replaced by a heavy, almost suffocating silence. The shouting that once echoed through the rooms had stopped abruptly, leaving behind an unnerving stillness. It was the kind of silence that made you listen harder, searching for any sign of what might come next. To outsiders, it looked like peace had finally settled in. Neighbors passing by might have thought the family had found harmony at last. But inside, beneath the surface, a plan was quietly taking shape, hidden from view. The husband, exhausted from months of conflict and misunderstanding, mistook the calm for acceptance. He believed the worst was over, that forgiveness had been granted, and that life would return to normal. Each morning he followed his routine, making coffee, reading the paper, moving through the motions of daily life, completely unaware that he was living on borrowed time, oblivious to the danger that lingered in the silence. Meals were still shared at the dinner table, but the warmth had faded, conversation was sparse, and trust had become nothing more than a mask, barely concealing the betrayal that simmered beneath the surface. The wife moved through her days with a secret weighing heavily on her mind. Every step she took, every glance she cast, was measured and careful. In her thoughts, a silent countdown ticked away, marking the days until everything would change. Did she feel doubt, or was her resolve unshakable? Only she knew the answer. Her face betrayed little, her emotions carefully guarded, as she stared at her own reflection, searching for reassurance, or perhaps forgiveness. The silence shattered suddenly with a frantic call for help. The wife's voice trembled as she dialed emergency services, her words urgent and desperate. The husband was gravely ill, and time was running out. When help finally arrived, the house was filled with flashing lights and hurried footsteps. But for the husband, it was already too late. The quiet that had once seemed peaceful now felt final and absolute. The quiet had become permanent, the storm passed, leaving only tragedy behind. The rooms echoed with absence, and the air was thick with the weight of what had happened. When investigators arrived, they sensed immediately that this was no ordinary emergency. The silence told its own story, a story of secrets, of tension, and of a tragedy that had been quietly building, hidden in plain sight. The emergency call suggested a sudden medical crisis, but the coroner's office saw something more sinister. The autopsy revealed poison, a lethal cocktail, not a natural cause. The chemicals combination pointed to deliberate, knowledgeable administration. This was no accident, it was a slow, calculated killing. The science was clear, homicide by poison. The investigation shifted. Who had access? Who had motive? In a domestic setting, the suspect pool was heartbreakingly small. Detectives pieced together the couple's history of conflict and motive. The autopsy transformed the case into a murder investigation. Every item in the home became potential evidence. But the most crucial clue wasn't in the house, it was online. The digital world held the answers. In the digital age, every action leaves a trace, a ghost in the machine. Detectives searched the couple's devices looking for clues. The wife's online purchase history was the smoking gun. Weeks before the death, she bought the very poisons found in her husband's body. The transactions were clear, damning, and detailed. Over $500 spent, each order carefully placed. The purchases were spread out, showing planning and research. She selected vendors, added chemicals to her cart, and clicked buy. The banality of the process made it even more chilling. This digital evidence became the cornerstone of the case, irrefutable and precise. Unlike physical evidence, the data was permanent and unforgiving. She believed the internet would hide her tracks, but it preserved them. The digital ghost sealed her fate. With digital receipts in hand, detectives built an airtight case. They subpoenaed chemical suppliers, confirmed orders, and tracked deliveries to the couple's home. Delivery dates matched the onset of the husband's symptoms. Investigators mapped the wife's online searches, poisons, lethal doses, undetectable chemicals. Each click, each search became evidence of intent. The prosecution could now walk a jury through every step, from marital discord to the fatal dose. The digital trail told the story of a marriage ending in betrayal. The case exposed a disturbing truth. Lethal substances are just a click away. The wife bought poisons online with ease, no checks, no questions. The internet blurred the line between convenience and danger. This ease of access turned a domestic dispute into a deadly crime. The story is a warning. The tools for murder are available to anyone with motive in the house. The poison came from both technology and human darkness. The trial was somber, the evidence overwhelming. The digital trail of poison purchases formed the backbone of the prosecution's case. The defense struggled against the irrefutable receipts and timeline. The jury deliberated briefly, returning a guilty verdict. In June 2025, the wife was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The verdict brought justice, but left a shattered family and a quiet house erased from memory. Her days would now be measured by prison routine, far from the life she once knew. The case was closed, but its impact lingered. When the headlines fade, unsettling questions remain. How does a decade of trust dissolve into murder? The case warns of the dangers in our digital world. Lethal substances just a click away. Who is responsible for policing these sales? It challenges us to notice the signs of domestic turmoil and act before tragedy strikes. Ultimately, it's a story about the fragility of trust and the darkness that can hide behind closed doors. If you can't trust the person you married, who can you trust?